Watching is concerning the logistics and idiocy of what Stephen Paddock did when he shot up Las Vegas. Some of the shots he fired were from the Mandalay Bay at a set of fuel tanks at an airport, or at least that's what it appeared to be. Now, I want to point out something. When you're sighting a rifle for long range, you shoot a target, and then while again aiming it the way it was and trying to hold it very still, you then adjust by clicks to get the drop of the bullet done. He was doing calculations at the time, and it was noted that at one time he originally was supposed to be in a building section over here, but he ended up over here. And you'll notice the dot I'm starting with is at ground level, so I compensated the same amount here as I did here to do this map. This is not entirely accurate. The midpoint of the pathway of where the bullets would have gone if he was aiming at one or both of these tanks was approximately this intersection from here to here. And if he was shooting from where he originally planned to be at the extreme end, we're going to use from here to here and the midpoint being here. The average of both of them is this intersection. And he could have easily just gone there and looked really quickly and seen what kind of angle he could have hit these tanks at. That's tank 201 and 202 right here that are full of Jet A fuel. We're going to be using Mike Turber's image from right here. Thank goodness he finally got one stuck on Google Maps. Let's see how long it lasts. Now I want to point out that shooting from where he did fire from, he would have had to shoot past not the top of, but he wouldn't have had to shoot past these two pillars here at all. And shooting from here at a high elevation, he wouldn't have had anything obstructing his view, except maybe a telephone pole or something like that. So why would shooting at these things be useful? Someone has proposed that two gas vent valves, one on each on the top middle or some other place on this, might have been important or worth shooting at. Now these things are 80 feet across approximately and about 30 feet tall. I'm going to be using an average of 2,032 feet, and from the shadows and measuring them and then dividing it by 2, because that seems to work correctly with the shadow angles and heights from known objects like this and how long the shadows are that day. I'm assuming it's a 2-foot tall valve maximum height on top of a 30-foot tall tank. The presumption is that he was aiming for these because that would create an ideal set of situations for igniting the fuel and creating an explosion. My proposal is that I now break my silence along with Mike Turber and everybody else who figured that out, that he was probably not trying to hit the gases. He was hitting these tanks most likely to sight in the rifle and trying to aim for something low on the tank to pop it open to create a source of flowing fuel to ignite, therefore creating a fire around two fuel tanks and creating a BLEVE explosion at worst. Not actually hitting it with incendiary rounds to try to really create holes in it. He was probably trying to aim for something else. Oddly enough, the new location he had in the Mandalay Bay offered him that option, but from here it would have been easy for him to hit these fuel pumps outside. But once he was over here, hitting them was kind of literally a shot in the dark. And remember, the conditions he was shooting under weren't ideal for doing any of this. But let's move forward. These are 80-foot across tanks, around 30 feet tall or more, and 2-foot valve to be aimed at. Or you could just hit a bigger target and do a better job, or ignore that, and he might have just been hitting them just to sight in the rifle. But I don't believe that last part at all. The original room assigned here is the black line here, and that's where those directions are. I'll leave an image here for you to look up. This is the view that Mike Turber got a hold of. This is Tank 202, and this is 201 Jet A, not Jet B, which has gasoline and has differing capabilities. We're going to look at the 201 first. Way up here, you can now see the rusting effect of what is very likely an impact point or not. Okay, let's move over here. The two locations that are absolutely noted as being impact points for bullets, here and one up here. They painted them over to keep them from rusting because there was a little bit more significant damage. Right between the two tanks are these manifolds and pumps. Punching a hole in this would produce a spray of fuel, aerosolizing the fuel and causing it to be a fire source. Not an explosion, but a fire source. And, of course, maybe hitting a valve. Yeah, and hitting this one twice might have been sighting it in, because you have to get it sighted in really accurately to hit something that's essentially less than a foot across from 2,000 feet away. Now, I want you to look up 1 minute of angle and realize what a rifle may be limited to. Okay? All right. Now we're going to go to the next one. Jet B ignition and burn temperatures are around freezing. Yeah, they can burn and explode at low temperature. Jet A, for everywhere else but the Arctic and Antarctic, only has ignition and blow-up temperatures at 104 degrees to 176 degrees Fahrenheit, or 40 Celsius to 80 Celsius. Weak and rich, Jet A curves. Now over here you see the other one. Oxygen-rich air boundary climb, atmospheric air boundary, approximate explosion zone due to tank venting, which is exactly what we're talking about. Again, at sea level down here, we still get a little bit under 104 degrees. It's actually 96 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that. A little over body temperature, up to 176 degrees Fahrenheit. But with this curve bending because of oxygen rich versus oxygen poor, you're really going to have to hit it around 140 degrees Fahrenheit. This was October in Las Vegas. This was the first hit on looking up Jet A explosion tank. That's all I looked up. No, unless he was completely stupid, which is possible, there was no chance of him actually doing this, except if it was very, very hot at the moment he fired. Remember, the tanks themselves act as a temperature moderator, so the average temperature during that week or month would have been important. But more importantly, for the previous 3 days, that temperature averaged out would have been liquid temperature inside the tanks. Shooting the vents on top would have done very little. Shooting the piping below would have had the effect of having a lot of pressure behind it, spraying through a small opening, which is exactly what you want for aerosolization, for an ignition to create a fire between two ridiculously, obscenely large tanks that are only partially full, creating a BLEVE explosion, which would have been equivalent to only a 2-kiloton bomb. This is the thing that me, Mike Turber, and everybody else did not discuss. Now, as of now, these are armored. Don't even bother thinking about it. It's not going to happen. The fact that nobody looked for bullet impacts except a couple of people who were able to go there, no names mentioned, and didn't see any bullet impacts, which would have been at a specific angle, like lining up, let's say, looking towards the center of that tank. So we zoom out, look towards the center of the tank, zoom in right past this light, and look around. I don't see any bullet impacts. Of course not. He wasn't aiming at the valves at the base, because Stephen Paddock was an idiot who didn't understand that punching a hole in a pipe at the base of a tank would cause it to vent. See also that there was some reconstruction work, and yeah, they're double-walled armored tubing in the first place probably, but if they weren't before, they sure as hell are now. These are sighting impacts. He was getting the gun lined up. He wasn't shooting over the tanks like we all said at the time, because we didn't want people to get the ideas. I wanted to make sure that we are very far along to them getting this fixed. And yeah, some of this fencing is brand new, because don't want to show any of that. But yeah, if you're not aware of the angle for shooting all the way from over there, it would have been just up and over the fence line to hit those pumps and manifolds. So you wouldn't have much evidence, if any. But anyway, he was using those to sight it in and trying to either hit the top of the tank, which is the assumption people are making, or he was aiming at something completely different that Turbo and everybody else hinted at. So yeah, if Jet A aviation kerosene evaporates and mixes with air as fuel vapor above the fuel, explosion conditions are created in a partially empty tank's ullage. But at sea level, it's not explosive by itself until anywhere from 95 Fahrenheit to 176 Fahrenheit, and the top end would be much more efficient. And it's not an oxygen-rich environment either, or 35C to 80C for those of you in Australia. The angle he planned I have here at street level view for you to get an idea of what, if anything, was in the way of him firing, And the outcome view is that line that was on the top edge of the map showing what he did or tried to do up here. From here and here, looking both directions. Odds are when he was going to be shooting from here, he was thinking of hitting the tank. Maybe he was thinking of hitting tank valves, but he was probably aiming for this cluster of equipment right here because that's much more effective. And he would have gotten a spray over. But when he got moved here, it was an irresistible target to shoot at these manifolds and pumps because that would cause a fire between the two and possibly have a BLEVE explosion. And that's it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with all of that. And yeah, I'm saying right now that the thing he was probably shooting for was right here. And it would have still been a lucky hit for hitting any of this. The most common deflection you get from a gun being fired is up and down. He would have had to hit something less than a foot across, dead center, and it's probably double-walled pipes now, but even then it probably was, and hit that pipe or that pipe. And that's it. As for shooting anything further downrange or any of the other stories or info we gave out, it's to make sure they had plenty of time to respond to us, making comments and asking them to please armor up. Heck, if you go out there now, you might find that there's some cement plates or steel plates in the way. By the way, the bullet didn't have enough speed at that point to do any real damage, so yeah. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.